Part 30. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuan-Chi. Chapter 292. At this time, the destroyer saw Yejuju and Thor, who had tortured him, but he did not react at all, and let Thor open the door of the treasury. While Yejuju was looking at the destroyer standing motionless at the door, he followed Thor into the door of the treasury, but he was thinking in his heart, "What does Odin mean by asking Thor to take me into his treasury? When I walked into Odin's treasury, I saw all kinds of gems, weapons, and metal minerals, but I didn't see the rarest treasures in the universe that Yejuju wanted to see." I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. However, just those seemingly inconspicuous gems, weapons, and metal minerals were enough to make Yejuju envious. While Yejuju was looking around, Thor took Yejuju directly to the center of the treasury. When he got here, Yejuju finally saw the treasures he had been thinking about. In the middle was an eyeball-like thing that emitted a strange blue-purple light. It was the Egmodo ball. Next to it was a special brazier, burning with a raging flame that never went out all year round. Inside was the eternal fire of the skull helmet. There was also an infinite glove standing on a high platform, which looked golden and had nothing magical. As for the magical life card, it was put in a box and Yejuju could not see it. The ice box was absorbed by the system space, the cosmic cube was on the earth, and the warlock's eye was hidden somewhere by Odin, and he did not see it at all. But just seeing these few things made Yejuju have an impulse to rob them. Fortunately, Yejuju was not such a reckless person. After taking a few deep breaths, he moved his eyes to a pile of dark golden irregular metals piled next to the corners of several treasures. Is this the URU metal that is famous throughout Marvel and ranks above vibranium and adamantium? Yejuju couldn't help but feel excited. The legendary URU metal is not only hard, but also has the ability to absorb and release magic. It can be called the rarest and most special metal in Marvel. Unfortunately, the production of URU metal is extremely rare. Even Odin, the Lord of the Nine Realms, only has this little stock. Looking at the pile of metal in front of him, which is only a few cubic meters, Yejuju was in trouble. How much should be taken so that Odin will not feel pain? According to the system's prompts, the upgrade of the armor only requires 3 fist-sized metal blocks to complete. But Yejuju really wants to get more. The opportunity is really too rare. Thor tilted his head and looked at Yejuju's tangled expression, not understanding why Yejuju was so tangled. At the same time, Odin sat on the throne, his eyes fixed on the direction of the treasury. Through the layers of castle buildings, he was also interested in watching Yejuju's choice. Should he just take the amount he wants? Or should he ask Thor for more URU metal as much as possible? And Yejuju's decision will also determine the attitude of Asgard and the god King Odin towards Yejuju in the future. Rightward arrow. That's right. Odin is optimistic about Yejuju and wants to win Yejuju over to become an ally of Asgard, but he doesn't want to be an ally with a greedy person. This is why Odin didn't give Yejuju the metal directly, but asked Thor to bring Yejuju into the treasury. Before, when Yejuju saw the Egmodo ball and other treasures, although his expression was excited, he didn't do anything extreme, which satisfied Odin. Next, it depends on how Yejuju does it. In fact, what they don't know is how serious Yejuju's entanglement is at this time. Of course, he knew that URU metal was special and rare, but he also knew that only the dwarves and gnomes living in Wathium could forge URU metal in the entire universe. Yejuju really wanted to make a quick deal and get as much URU metal as possible, but he was wise not to ask Thor immediately, but ask the system in his mind. System, can the universal furnace in my space smelt and forge URU metal? System. No. URU metal is the rarest and special metal in the universe, and the host cannot smelt and forge it with his current ability. And the host's opportunity to upgrade the armor with URU metal is also completed through the system, and the host cannot do it alone. I understand, that is to say, even if I get more URU metal, it will just be left in the space to gather dust, right? Host, you can understand it this way. Okay, then I won't be greedy, I just need 3 pieces of URU metal to upgrade my armor. After all, maybe I will have to deal with Odin and Asgard in the future, who knows? After muttering to himself, Yejuju made a decision, his face became casual, and he looked at Thor and said, Thor, I only need 3 pieces of URU metal, will it make you embarrassed? Ah? What? You only need 3 pieces. Thor looked at Yejuju in disbelief and blurted out. Actually, you can definitely ask for more. You know, this metal is very rare, even we, have only saved so much over the years. My father is so generous that he asked me to take you to the treasury to get it. This opportunity is rare, you know? No. Yejuju shook his head firmly and rejected it. Since URU metal is so rare, how can I be so greedy? I'd better just take 3 pieces, you give me 1. Well, okay. Thor looked at Yejuju with a look of mental retardation, bent down to compare and search in the pile of metal, trying to pick out the 3 largest pieces of URU metal for Yejuju. Yejuju glared at Thor speechlessly, feeling very unhappy, thinking. Do you think I don't want to take more? Isn't it that I don't have the ability to smelt and forge? The old guy Odin is the same, why don't you just give me the URU metal I want? You insist that Thor take me into your treasure house, isn't this just to make me jealous to death? Thinking of this, Yejuju suddenly frowned, as if he thought of something. Just a moment Yejuju widened his eyes in surprise, thinking. No way. Is this old guy doing this on purpose? Is he trying to test me? The more he thought about it, the more certain he became. Yejuju couldn't help but curse Odin's cunningness in his heart. Odin got the answer he wanted, nodded with satisfaction and leaned on the throne, recognizing Yejuju, an ordinary person from Midgard. Thor picked for a long time before he found the 3 largest pieces of URU metal from the pile of metal. He stood up and handed them to Yejuju and said. Here, these are the 3 largest pieces of URU metal, for you. Yejuju rolled his eyes and thought. You can see that these 3 pieces are the largest with your eye, aren't they almost the same? But he thanked him politely. Thank you, Thor, I am very satisfied. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 293. While speaking, Yejuju reached out to catch the 3 pieces of metal. However, he did not expect that these 3 pieces of metal, which were only the size of an adult's fist, would be unusually heavy. If it were not for his superb physical fitness and quick reaction to stabilize it, the 3 pieces of metal would have fallen to the ground. He secretly sighed. It is worthy of being the rarest and most special metal in Marvel, and it is really damn heavy. With a wave of his hand, he put the 3 pieces of URU metal into the space, and Yejuju turned around and walked out of Odin's treasure house without hesitation. After walking out of the door, Yejuju let out a heavy breath, but what he thought in his heart was. Wait. When the old guy Odin dies and Hela comes to attack Asgard, I will come again. At that time, I will take away everything in this treasure house without mercy. Thor saw Yejuju leave the treasure house without stopping, and hurriedly followed him. He was very impressed by Yejuju's unmoved treasure. To be honest, the things in this treasure house made even Odin's son, the future heir of the God King, a little jealous every time he came in. Unexpectedly. It was really amazing that Yejuju, a mortal, could resist the temptation of so many treasures. Thor, who had a new respect for Yejuju, took Yejuju back to the castle. At this moment, he received a notice from the guards, asking Thor to take Yejuju to Odin's reception room. With doubts in his heart, Thor and Yejuju entered the reception room together. Odin sat on a chair, smiling at Thor and Yejuju who came in, and extended his hand to invite them. Little friend, come and sit down. Yejuju saw Odin smiling like a mouse who had picked up rice, and immediately became alert, thinking. If someone is too kind to others, he is either a traitor or a thief. I must be careful, so as not to fall into the trap of this old guy. But he politely thanked him and sat on the chair next to Odin. Odin did not beat around the bush and said directly. Little friend, you are very strong. Although Asgard is independent of the 9 realms, it is not invincible. We also need allies. Little friend, what do you think? Ah! Yejuju was caught off guard by the question. He shouted in surprise and then calmed down. He looked at Odin, who was still smiling, and asked seriously. Can I ask why you chose me? Haha. It's very simple. Your strength has won my respect. You have great potential. As long as there is a chance and time, I think you can definitely reach my level. So, I am making friends with you in advance for Asgard and Thor. How about it? Are you willing? Afterwards, Odin seemed to feel that it was not enough to tempt Yejuju, and continued to add. Of course, when you encounter trouble in Midgard, you can also contact us, and we will send someone to help you. Hearing this, Yejuju did not agree immediately, but lowered his head to think. In fact, he had already agreed in his heart, and the reason why he didn't agree immediately was just to pretend. At this time, the system prompt sounded again. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task Odin's Favor Ability 3. Get Odin's recognition, become an ally of Asgard, and reward 5,000 experience points and 3 opportunities to travel freely between Asgard and Earth. What a pleasant surprise, isn't it? Yejuju was really happy. The opportunity to travel freely 3 times is really rare. This gave Yejuju a great convenience. You know, in Thor 2, Jane was possessed by the ether and was in critical condition. She was taken to Asgard by Thor, and then she was invaded by the Dark Elves led by Malekith. However, Thor and Odin did not ask for external help, which eventually led to Asgard being almost destroyed by the Dark Elves, and Odin eventually disappeared due to exhaustion of divine power. In this plot, Yejuju can just participate uninvited and get some benefits. These benefits are not only experience, but also the space crack grenade used by the Dark Elves that Yejuju really wants. In the hands of others, this thing may be just a weapon with good power. But in Yejuju's hands, it may not be recognized by the system, and it may be transformed into a powerful weapon. Thinking of this, Yejuju raised his head, stretched out his right hand habitually and said, Okay, Your Majesty, I am willing to be an ally of Asgard. Odin was stunned by Yejuju's action, but he reacted to the etiquette of the Midgard people at this time, and stretched out his hand to shake hands with Yejuju, laughing. Haha, good. That's great. Then, from now on, little friend is a friend of Asgard. I allow you to summon Heimdall and let him open the Rainbow Bridge for you, and come to Asgard as a guest at any time. Hearing this, Yejuju pretended to be surprised and kept thanking Odin, but he was secretly complaining in his heart. You are fooling me. I need your consent to let Heimdall open the Rainbow Bridge for me. It's not that easy. As for Thor, it's even more impossible after you disappear. That's reckless. Once the battle starts, he will let himself go and be passionate without thinking. How can he think of me as an ally? This is also why Thor did not ask for help when Hela attacked Asgard, but instead released the fire giant King Surtur. Although Hela disappeared in the Sea of Fire in one fell swoop, Asgard was completely destroyed. Of course, Yejuju wanted to join in the fun in these plots and wanted to get some benefits. However, this is all later and will not be mentioned for now. Odin, the old fox, and Yejuju, the little fox, both got the results they wanted, so they naturally had a good chat. Poor Thor became a decoration and could not get a word in. It was not until an hour later that Yejuju made an excuse that he had something to do on Earth, and went to the Rainbow Bridge and returned to Earth with Thor. When he reappeared outside the town of Pundiantigo, Yejuju finally breathed a sigh of relief, and the next moment he took off and returned to the top floor of Tony's Stark building. Seeing Yejuju coming back, Tony was obviously very unhappy, and he kept ignoring Yejuju and gave Yejuju a cold look. Yejuju didn't care, and greeted him and Sky directly, and returned to his bedroom. The next moment, Yejuju couldn't wait to take off the armor on his wrist, put it into the space, and said to the system, "System, I want to use the armor upgrade opportunity." System: "Okay host, I will start upgrading the armor now." Upgrading, please wait patiently. 1%, 2%, 3%, 98%, 99%, 100%. Armor upgrade completed, please check the details by yourself. Yes. Yejuju cheered softly, and couldn't wait to take the armor out of the space. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 294. Before the armor was unfolded, it was still in the style of a bracelet, but it was black in color, emitting the same black and translucent white light as the armor of Odin and Thor, the unique black of URU metal. Rightward arrow. The most amazing thing is that there are many patterns on the surface of the bracelet that Yejuju has never seen before, which gives people a very amazing feeling. Put the armor on your wrist, and move your mind. The armor expanded and covered your whole body at a very fast speed. Almost as soon as Yejuju thought about it, the armor covered his whole body. Looking down at the surface of the armor, it was indeed covered with mysterious patterns. Then, Yejuju tried to condense ice arrows and ice cones in his hands. Surprise! The speed of condensation of ice arrows and ice cones was super fast, and judging from the cold breath emitted from the ice arrows and ice cones, the power of these ice arrows and ice cones was actually several times higher than before. Retract the ice arrows and ice cones, and condense a pair of ice knives again. The speed of condensing the ice blade was still very fast, and the color of the ice blade was even whiter, even dazzling. The cold air emanating from it was several times colder than before. Yejuju knew that this was the unique color of the 10,000-year-old ice that never melted all year round. This made Yejuju know without trying that the current ice blade must be harder and sharper than before, and the attached freezing power would be greater. Then, Yejuju pouted with regret and took back the armor with disappointment. He really wanted to experiment with the power of the current big move cold wave. Unfortunately, this is Tony's building, and Yejuju really didn't dare to release the cold current casually, lest the employees of his building were killed by the cold current by mistake. Tony seemed to be still angry. Yejuju had been back for a long time, but he didn't come. Until the next day, it was the demonstration meeting of Hanmo Industry. Tony still didn't talk to Yejuju, and drove his Xiao Ao by himself, leading the way in front. Yejuju and Sky got on the RV, and Happy drove them to the Ralph Wilson Stadium. Parker was very sad that he was still in school, and he couldn't watch the excitement with Yejuju and the others. Parker was very upset. When everyone arrived at the Ralph Wilson Stadium, it was already crowded with people, and all the stands were full of people. The field in the middle of the stadium was also full of chairs, and the people sitting here were all upper-class people with status and position. Of course, Yejuju also got Tony's blessing and was arranged in the front row, sitting with Rod Potts. About half an hour later, the originally noisy venue suddenly became quiet, and everyone looked up at the sky. Yejuju and the others were no exception. When they looked up, they saw a lot of black spots in the sky flying towards the venue. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Yejuju had excellent eyesight, and he could see from a distance that the so-called steel warriors of Hanmo Industry were flying over. Seeing this, Yejuju could not help but be ready to fight at any time, and reminded Tony beside him. "Tony, be careful, those iron soldiers may come with bad intentions." "Humph. You don't need to remind me, Iron Man is ready to fight at any time." I didn't expect Tony to be still angry. Yejuju was a little bit amused. This Tony is also. He is obviously in his 30s, but he is still like a child, and he can get angry for a whole day and night. There is no time to talk to Tony, because the black spots have already flown over the demonstration, and they just hovered in the air for a few seconds before landing on the high platform built in the center of the venue. The iron soldiers who landed on the high platform all stood quietly and did not move, and then the host and spokesman Han Mo appeared again. As the music played, Han Mo walked to the center of the platform, bowed gracefully to the audience and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the demonstration of the steel soldiers of Hanmo Industrial." After the voice fell, thunderous applause, cheers, screams and whistles broke out in the venue. After more than 10 seconds, Hanmo pressed his hand to signal everyone to be quiet. He glanced at Tony with a proud and obscure look, and continued, "You are lucky to witness these steel soldiers across the ages with me. You will remember today for the rest of your life, a day that changed the form of war. Next, please first appreciate the power of the Army's steel soldiers." After the voice fell, the eyes of the Army's steel soldiers who were originally quiet on the platform became clear, their heads turned left and right, and the machine guns on their shoulders were aimed everywhere as their heads turned. "Wow!" the audience exclaimed again. What they didn't know was that these steel soldiers were scanning the people present and confirming the targets they were going to attack. When the presence of Tony was detected, these iron soldiers actually sounded an alarm. An electronic synthesized voice said, "Target Tony Stark found, all soldiers enter combat readiness, attack in 3 seconds." After the voice fell, all the iron soldiers on the platform started up. Yejuju had sharp ears. After hearing the electronic synthesized voice, he immediately activated the armor that came out of his wrist. After covering his whole body within a second, he grabbed Tony beside him and flew into the air, shouting to Tony in his hand, "Tony, their target is you, quickly equip your armor and prepare for battle." He also shouted to Rhodes, who was shocked below, "Rhodes, take Potts and Sky away from the venue safely." Tony was not slow either. When Yejuju grabbed him and flew into the sky, he had already activated the laser positioning device on his wrist. He asked Jarvis to immediately send his armor to him. Unfortunately, even if he could summon the armor remotely, it would not be completed in 1 or 2 seconds. The Iron Warriors on the ground had already taken action, aiming their weapons on their shoulders at Yejuju and Tony in the sky. The words of the Iron Warriors were not only heard by Yejuju and Tony, but also by some upper-class people who were close. These people, without exception, took a deep look at Han Mo, who was dumbfounded on the stage in panic, and immediately stood up and called their bodyguards to escort them out of the venue. As soon as these people left, the people who were watching the excitement from a distance and didn't know what was going on, also became panicked. They all stood up and screamed and left the venue, and the venue was extremely chaotic for a while. Fortunately, there are 4 entrance gates to the stadium, and the exits are large enough. There are enough police officers to maintain order, so there is no stampede in the panic. Because Yejuju's flying speed is fast enough, these steel warriors took several seconds to lock Yejuju and Tony. The next second, the weapons on the shoulders of the army steel warriors standing on the ground opened fire, and the sounds of da-da-da, bang bang bang, swoosh swoosh rang out one after another. But they have already aimed at Yejuju and fired, trying to shoot down Yejuju and Tony. And those so-called Air Force steel warriors have already flown into the air, ready to chase Yejuju and Tony. Across the heavens, Marvel's mechanical hunter. Author, Dachuanchi. Chapter 295. With Red Queen and Danger Sense, Yejuju can easily dodge these attacks, and he even sneered at the Iron Soldiers chasing behind him. There is no way, his and Tony's reactors are new elements, and the speed of flying is not comparable to the reactors on the Iron Soldiers. Although Yejuju still holds Tony in his hand, he still flies much faster than the Iron Soldiers. Yejuju had already made plans in his mind, and he could not fight these Iron Soldiers in the downtown area to avoid hurting innocent people. With the Iron Soldiers chasing behind him, Yejuju carried Tony, who was already runny by the cold wind, and flew to a clearing deep in the dense forest of Hyde Park. Although this is a park, there are few people in the deep forest, which is just right for Yejuju and his team to fight with the Iron Soldiers. As soon as Tony landed on the ground, a few black spots flew in the sky first. Just by the flashy red color, Yejuju knew that it was Tony's armor flying remotely. Sure enough, the next moment, Tony opened his hands and raised his head, waiting for the armor to be automatically put on his body with a kingly posture. Unfortunately, if he could wipe the snot under his nose, it would be cool. With the sound of click, click, the armor wrapped Tony's whole body. Tony tilted his head and said to Yejuju, "Humph, although you brought me here, I still don't want to forgive you. I'll settle accounts with you after the battle." After that, Tony asked Jarvis again. "Jarvis, how long will it take for Xiaoao to get here?" "Sir, Xiaoao is already speeding here and is expected to arrive in 1 minute." Yejuju didn't have time to pay attention to Tony's stinginess and arrogance. He released the red and blue clothes and 10 liquid robots from the space, as well as 6 mechanical dogs transformed by deformation elements. Yejuju didn't let them merge. After all, the environment here is not suitable for them to perform. Besides, these so-called Iron Soldiers don't even need to merge, they can easily destroy them. Just after they were released, the Iron Warriors in the sky also rushed over, and the Army and Navy landed on the ground, scattered around the two people and surrounded them. The Air Force Iron Warriors and Missile Corps in the air have been hovering in the air, launching a covering attack on Yejuju and Tony on the ground. Facing the attack, Yejuju and Tony also moved, dodging the attack skillfully and starting to counterattack. Although Tony didn't have the upper hand when fighting the destroyer, he was invincible against these weak Iron Warriors. Whether it was the opponent's missiles or the targets hovering in the air, Tony's methods were not inferior to Yejuju's mechanical creatures. The missiles were locked, intercepted, and detonated in the air by the small missiles launched by Tony, and several Iron Warriors in the air were shot down by Tony with the weapons that came with the armor, and fell into a pile of scrap metal with a crash. Yejuju's attack became even more fierce. He used energy cannons, ice arrows, and ice cones without hesitation, and each time he attacked, he could kill 3 steel warriors. It must be said that the armor upgraded with URU metal is really powerful. The ice arrows and ice cones that could not penetrate steel before have become sharper now. Attacking these steel cast guys is as easy as inserting a hot iron skewer into frozen butter. In the sky, like dumplings, a steel soldier falls from time to time. And this battle has attracted more attention. There are military drones filming and monitoring from a distance, and several satellites are all aimed at this place. There are also fearless reporters flying around the battlefield in helicopters, filming and explaining the whole process to everyone. Yejuju's mechanical creatures, whether it is the military, SHIELD, or the American audience, or even those who have channels to see the scene, have all seen it in previous wars. But when a robot with a height of 3 meters and 5 meters quickly entered the battlefield, everyone watching was stunned. It was none other than Tony's vehicle, Transformers, Xiaoao. Although he may not be very eye-catching in the Transformers world, he is a person who cannot be underestimated in the Marvel world. After being trained by Zhou, Xiaoao is now extremely flexible and tough in combat, and there is no trace of clumsiness caused by his tall stature. With an energy cannon in his left hand and a sharp dagger in his right hand, he charged into the steel soldiers on the ground, killing them like chopping melons and vegetables. With the cooperation of the red and blue clothes and 6 werewolves on the ground, the steel soldiers on the ground were eliminated at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the sky, Yejuju and Tony rushed into the group of steel soldiers with 10 liquid robots and launched a long-range close combat attack. This is interesting. Whether it is the 10 liquid robots or Tony, dealing with these steel soldiers is like an adult beating a child. The steel soldiers have no ability to resist at all, and even Tony has done it to the extent of tearing the steel soldiers apart with his hands. There is no way. Compared with the armor made by Tony, these iron soldiers are not so much mecha warriors as they are metal parts spliced together. With the help of the precise joints of the armor and the energy provided by the reactor, Tony, wearing the armor, has a strength of more than 1 ton. It is really easy to tear open their fragile joints. If we look at Yejuju again, he is too brutal. From a distance, Yejuju quickly condensed an ice arrow with his left hand, and shot it through the body of a steel soldier. At a close distance, he used a 3-meter-long strange long knife in his hand to cut open the body of the steel soldier. But Yejuju's speed was extremely fast. In the video, only Yejuju's figure was seen flickering in the sky, left and right. Every time he flashed out, he killed 1 or even 2 steel soldiers. This is also the benefit brought to Yejuju by the upgrade of the armor with URU metal. It is not only reflected in his freezing magic attack, but also in the speed of the armor. This is why, although the same armor and the same reactor provide energy, Yejuju is faster and more flexible than Tony. Watching Yejuju slaughtering these lifeless steel soldiers, all forces rubbed their teeth. It's really too powerful and too terrifying. Whether it is the military or SHIELD, they have increased their intention to recruit Yejuju. Among them, the leaders of the Hydra base in the Nevada mountains were the most interested in Yejuju. Standing next to them was Ivan, who had been completely brainwashed, looking at the video screen with disdain and curling his lips from time to time. He turned his head and fed the nuts in his hand to a cockatiel standing on his right shoulder. Baron Strucker looked at the screen with interest and said to Ivan, "How is it, what do you think, Ivan?" Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 296. Hearing this, Ivan continued to feed the parrot without raising his head and replied, "Those steel soldiers are nothing more than a pile of metal parts. Not to mention Tony and that annoying Chinese, even an army with some strength can take them down. After my research and trial production of the armor is successful, Tony will no longer be able to deal with it casually." Snort. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow circled M. That's when. I must make Tony pay the price he deserves. Haha. I'm looking forward to this day, Ivan. Just go ahead and do it, whether it is resources in the base or resources that are not available in the base, as long as you ask, I will help you get it. No problem. As long as I have enough resources and time, I will create a real mecha warrior for the organization that is not inferior to Tony. In S.H.I.E.L.D., Fury, Coulson, Hill, Natasha, and Barton, who were also paying attention to the battle, also gathered around the TV screen on the wall. Fury's face was very ugly, and he pointed at Xiao Ao, who was showing off his fighting skills on the screen, and said, "Who among you knows what this is? Whose is it? Is it yes or Tony's?" Hearing this, Coulson shrugged and said, "Sorry, sir. We have no information about this thing, and this is the first time it appears. But I think this big robot should belong to Tony." Natasha and Barton looked very serious. Compared to Fury and Coulson, 2 experts who were also proficient in fighting, they could see that Xiao Ao was extraordinary. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. After all, Xiao Ao's fighting movements are like an enlarged version of a fighting master, and he is also a steel guy with immense strength and invulnerability. This is an extremely difficult guy. They both thought at the same time. The battle lasted only 10 minutes and was already coming to an end. There is no way, these steel soldiers are too scumbag. Not to mention hurting Tony and Yejuju, even Yejuju's mechanical creatures couldn't kill any of them. At most, they only left a little dent on their bodies. Even Xiao Ao, who was huge and had an obvious target, failed to leave any big scars on it. After the battle, Yejuju and Tony fell to the ground, and they couldn't help but high-five each other in celebration. At this time, Tony had obviously forgotten the previous unhappiness. A hearty battle side by side with Ling Lin was enough to eliminate the unhappiness caused by Yejuju's farewell without saying goodbye. After collecting the mechanical creatures into the space, Yejuju and Tony walked out of the dense forest side by side, carrying Xiao Ao who was still interested in them. As soon as they walked out of the dense forest, the two put away their armors. Xiao Ao also changed back to his R8 appearance. The two opened the car door and got in. Everyone who saw the scene was petrified on the spot. Everyone has a doubt. What did I see? This is Transformers, right? Autobots? When did it come to this world from the comics? The two of them, who still didn't realize it, chatted while Xiao Ao drove back to Stark Tower on his own. Tony naturally wanted to ask, where did Yejuju go after leaving the small town of Pundiantigo? You know, he asked Jarvis to search all over and couldn't find Yejuju. Only then did he realize that Yejuju might have caused trouble again, so he was angry that Yejuju didn't take him to play with him. Yejuju then explained. I was invited by Odin to go to Asgard. What? Tony opened his mouth in shock, stared at Yejuju in shock, looked at Yejuju in disbelief, and said with indelible jealousy in his eyes. You actually went there. Incredible. It's incredible. After saying that, Tony's jealousy disappeared instantly, and then his desire to gossip took over and asked. Then, tell me, what Asgard looks like. Yejuju was about to answer when he heard Tony's car phone ringing, followed by Xiao Ao's voice. Master, this is Coulson's phone number from S.H.I.E.L.D. Do you want to put it through for you? Coulson. Yejuju and Tony said in unison. Tony thought for a while and asked Xiao Ao to answer the phone. Hello, is this Mr. Tony? It's me. Mr. Coulson isn't coming to trouble us because of Hanmo Industry, is he? You have to know, this is not me looking for trouble, it's Hanmo steel soldiers who have a problem. I think you misunderstood, Mr. Tony. I don't mean to blame you, I just want to ask, what is the origin of the robot that can turn into a car just now? Hearing this, Tony and Ye looked at each other clearly for a long time. No way, when he first met Chasing the Wind, Tony, like Coulson, mistook Chasing the Wind for an Autobot or a Transformer. Thinking of how shocked he was when he saw Zui Feng for the first time, Tony couldn't help laughing, and then said. Coulson, it's not what you think. This is just the result of my research and invention. You know, what I am best at is mechanical manufacturing, do you understand? Really? Mr. Tony, I hope you won't hide this, after all. It is no small matter for alien creatures to enter the Earth. I need your serious confirmation, sir. I'm sure, Mr. Coulson. That's good. I won't bother you anymore. Mr. Tony, have a nice day. After saying that, Coulson simply hung up the phone. In Fury's office, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Especially Fury, while he breathed a sigh of relief, he also had a new understanding of Tony's ability. He really wanted to absorb Tony and Yejuju into S.H.I.E.L.D. as soon as possible and form the Avengers. Unfortunately, he didn't have a proper opportunity to bring these capable and unruly people together. Even if Captain Me temporarily joined S.H.I.E.L.D., judging from his behavior, he was just on a mission and didn't really belong to S.H.I.E.L.D., that is, his leadership. If Captain Me is like this, then Like the arrogant Tony, Yejuju, who is powerful and cunning like a fox, is naturally not easy to regain. Yes. Fury no longer dared to underestimate Yejuju. After all, every time he saw Yejuju, Yejuju's strength would be improved. He really didn't know what level Yejuju's strength would be improved to. However, Fury was looking forward to Yejuju. He looked forward to Yejuju growing to a level beyond Captain Marvel. In this way, the Earth, a planet with a low level of civilization in the universe, would have greater protection. Fortunately, only Shield noticed the scene of Xiao turning into a car, which saved Tony and Yejuju a lot of trouble. However, this was a matter of time. After all, Xiao and even Yejuju's Wind Chaser, Steel Cable, Mechanical Two-Headed Dragon, and Mechanical Three-Headed Dog would sooner or later be revealed to the world. When these powers beyond their cognition appeared, there would definitely be a lot of trouble. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuan-Chi. Chapter 297. At the same moment, in Kamataj's magical holy land, Guyi knelt down on a futon, a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes, and then he showed a strange expression and murmured to himself. Is it you again? It seems. I should find time to see you. Yejuju, who still didn't know that Guyi was interested in him, was quarreling with Tony and returned to Stark Tower. In the building, Rhodes, Potts, and Sky were waiting anxiously in the living room. When the two entered the living room, the two women rushed forward and shouted at the same time. One shouted Tony's name, and the other shouted Yet. The difference was that Potts rushed to 2 meters in front of Tony and stopped. He just looked at Tony with excitement on his face, but his eyes were full of worry. Sky didn't care, and immediately jumped on Yejuju's body, hanging on Yejuju's neck like a koala, and shouted. I knew you would come back safely. You are so awesome. I admire you so much. Being hugged by Sky immediately made Yejuju stunned. My whole body felt hot. He is no longer Brother Chu, so he naturally understands why. For a moment, Yejuju was even in a trance. Am I being liked again? Yejuju's stunned performance made several adults laugh. Except for him and Sky, the people present were all adults. Naturally, they could see that Sky liked Yejuju very much, but Yejuju seemed a bit dumbfounded and unaware. It seems that at this moment, everyone realized. Yejuju is still a young man who has not grown up and does not understand love yet. After Sky got off Yejuju, everyone sat on the sofa, and Sky sat closely next to Yejuju. Yejuju also noticed Rhodes' disappointed expression at this moment, and couldn't help but feel a move in his heart. Thinking of this important supporting role in Marvel, Yejuju considered whether he should remind Tony and give Rhodes a battle armor so that he could continue to play the role of War Machine. After chatting for a while, Rhodes told Tony about the military's intentions. Naturally, he hoped that Tony would open up the technical rights to the steel armor to the military, and the military would also spend a lot of money to purchase it. Tony refused without any hesitation. Rhodes understood clearly and stopped lobbying, stood up and left. After dinner in the evening, Yejuju felt a little bored, so he went up to the rooftop, intending to take a good breath of fresh air during this rare free time. At this moment, Yejuju was keenly aware of an inexplicable pressure on his side, giving him a sense of danger. Reacting very quickly, Yejuju activated his armor, covering his whole body in an instant. He turned around and saw a bald woman standing behind him. Yejuju couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the person coming. Fortunately, the visor covered his cheeks so that Guyi couldn't see his surprise, so he didn't show timidity in front of Guyi. Guyi maintained his calm expression, but his eyes showed admiration for Yejuju, and he said, "Hello, I'm Ancient One, and I'm here at Kamataj Magical Holy Land. Can you tell me where you are from? Hearing this, Yejeju was shocked, and his understanding of Guyi rose to another level. To be honest, although Ancient One didn't appear much in the Marvel Universe, he even died at the hands of his weak apprentice Cassius. It doesn't seem that awesome. But all netizens in the previous life believe that Ancient One's strength is truly no in Marvel. One exists. Not to mention the god of darkness, even Odin, who rules the 9 realms, or Thanos, who wiped out half the population of the universe, are no match for him. The most powerful thing about her is that she can travel through time and see the past and the future. Today, when Ancient One asked where he came from, it was confirmed. Yejeju was thinking about how to answer Guyi, and guessed the purpose of Guyi coming to him. Guyi seemed to see Yejeju's hesitation, smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry, I have no ill intentions towards you. On the contrary, I'm very optimistic about you. Since you appeared, I have seen countless changes in the future." After speaking, Guyi crossed Yejeju's side, walked to the edge of the building, looked at the brightly lit New York in the night, and said with emotion, "This world is beautiful, isn't it?" Yejeju breathed a sigh of relief, and walked to the edge of the building to stand side by side with Guyi, and said while talking on the phone, "It's also dangerous." "Oh." Guyi chuckled lightly and said, "That's why so many people are willing to protect it, isn't it? And you? What should I call you? Time traveler? Or a reborn person? Ugh. Although I can see your past and future in the long river of time. But it's the only existence that I can't see through. Good thing." Having said this, Gu turned around, looked at Yejeju's faceplate seriously and said, "In all the possible changes, you didn't do anything to harm the world, so I'm here. Can you tell me, an old monster who has lived for countless years, your purpose in coming to this world?" "Oh." Yejeju was speechless, but he replied seriously, "Actually, I don't know how I came into this world. However, when I came here, I had a mission in my heart, which was to do my best to preserve this world. Do you believe me?" Hearing this, Guyi nodded in satisfaction and stopped asking questions. Although Yejeju did not tell the truth, Guyi was obviously very satisfied. Yes. Guyi is an old monster who has lived for 700 years and has been fighting against dark creatures for a long time. His way of looking at things is not something that ordinary people can understand. She has already got the answer she wanted from Yejeju's words, so she did not delve into Yejeju's origins. In fact, Yejeju was also very curious. Netizens in the previous life had also speculated that since Guyi was so powerful, his soul could enter the long river of time and see the past and the future. Then, she must have seen the fact that Thanos slaughtered the Avengers and destroyed half of the universe, right? But why didn't she remind them, or even kill Thanos? Thinking of this, Yejeju couldn't help her curiosity and asked, "Master Guyi, I heard that you can enter the long river of time, see the past and the future, and know that people who will bring danger to the world in the future, why don't you stop them, or even eliminate them in advance?" Yejeju regretted asking this question, and was worried that Guyi would take action against him. After all, if it were him, when he knew that someone could know what would happen in the future just like him, would he take action to eliminate the other party? While Yejeju was worried, Guyi smiled calmly and said, "Well, you are right. But have you ever thought that once I take action, many people will change because of it?" Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 298. After a pause, Guyi continued to say meaningfully, "Well, the Earth is not just my Guyi's Earth, it is everyone's Earth, it needs more people to stand up and protect it, right? I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. I don't want to change the fate of those who are willing to protect the Earth in the future. They need to grow up, grow to the point where they can protect the Earth. And after another pause, Guyi looked at Yejuju and said seriously, those who come the enemies from the outer planets are not the most terrible, but the existence hidden in the shadow plane is the most terrible. I don't have the energy to do more. Can you understand what I said? And I also want to remind you. Since you know the future direction, try not to change the trajectory of some people, understand? After getting this answer, Yejuju was relieved and thought to himself. It seems that Guyi has no opinion on what he has done, and even changed the fate of Tony and Rhodes without questioning it. That's good. Nodding to Guyi, Yejuju stopped talking, turned around and looked at the brightly lit streets, pretending to appreciate the scenery. In fact, he still had many doubts in his heart and wanted to ask Guyi. For example, she could clearly see that she died in the hands of Cassius. Why didn't she kill him in advance? Or in other words, she obviously had the strength to defeat Cassius, why did she let him go and die in the hands of Cassius? Although he felt as uncomfortable as a cat scratching in his heart, Yejuju still held back and didn't ask. After Guyi silently accompanied Yejuju to watch the scenery for a while, he said to Yejuju, okay, my purpose for coming here today has been achieved, so I won't stay here, I'm leaving. After saying that, Guyi gently waved his hand hidden in his robe sleeve, and a portal with sparks appeared. At the moment of stepping into the portal, Guyi turned back and reminded. Remember, you can participate in future things, but try not to change them. After saying that, Guyi stepped into the portal, then closed the portal, leaving only a spark in the air, and completely disappeared. Until then, Yejuju breathed a sigh of relief, and after retracting his armor, he muttered to himself. It seems this Guyi is really powerful. It's better not to deal with such a big guy in the future. After muttering, Yejuju no longer had the idea of continuing to blow the wind, and returned to the room to rest angrily. The next day, Yejuju and Sky went back to their own home. Although Tony was reluctant, he still let Happy send them back home. After returning home, Yejuju completely relaxed and waited for the next world shuttle at the end of the month. In the following time, Yejuju was completely relaxed. In his free time, he cooked for Parker and Sky, and occasionally entertained Tony, who came to ask for money. Watching the time slowly pass, it was the cooling off period of January again. On this day, Yejuju excitedly made a big meal, and returned to the room early in the evening to wait quietly. It was past 12 o'clock at night, and Yejuju couldn't wait to dress up and stood in the bedroom and said to the system. System, I want to travel through time and space. System. Okay host. Time and space shuttle begins, time and space shuttle in progress, shuttle completed. When Yejuju opened his eyes, he saw that he was in a ruin. In this ruin, there were traces left after the battle everywhere. Among the ruins, the most conspicuous thing is a huge skeleton of an unknown animal that is almost 100 meters long. At this time, the system prompt sounded again. The host is currently in the world of Pacific Rim, Thunder Rising, and the world mission is released. Please go to the Hunter School and successfully join the Hunter School as a preparatory Hunter student, and reward 5,000 experience. When receiving this mission, to be honest, Yejuju was a little confused. You must know that Thunder Rising is the sequel to the first part, and it has been 10 years since the first monster invasion war. The Hunter School is no longer as glorious as it used to be. Although there are still several mecha warriors responsible for guarding the ocean, the number of students is relatively small. It can almost be said that the Hunter School has not recruited students for a long time. Moreover, the students in the play are all young students like Yejuju, or even younger than Yejuju. In other words, it is not so easy to pass the screening exam to become a Hunter student like in the first part. So here comes the question. How can Yejuju join the hunter school? Thinking about his worries, Yejuju slowly walked around the monster skeleton, recalling the entire plot of Thunder Rising in his mind. It took Yejuju a full 10 minutes to recall the entire plot, but he didn't seem to find a suitable opportunity. Finally, Yejuju thought of the transformers and fire seeds that were still stored in the space. You know, in addition to those individual transformers, he also has a combined transformer that he hasn't used. Although the size of the combined King Kong is only more than 20 meters, compared with the mechas in this world that are more than 70 or 80 meters long and weigh more than 1,000 tons, and the monsters that are tens or hundreds of meters long and weigh nearly 10,000 tons. It is already as small as it can be. But with the combined King Kong shown to the world, can't he be admitted to the hunter school as a matter of course? Didn't you see that little girl Amara Namani, who has a boxer and a small mecha, who is only a few meters tall, was specially recruited into the hunter training class in this way? Thinking of this, Yejuju had a plan in his mind. Walking out of the ruins, Yejuju released his Mount Zufeng from the space and went to the city highway. His purpose is very simple, that is, to find a suitable vehicle and transform it into a combined King Kong that he is satisfied with. In fact, Yejuju also has a plan in mind. He plans to find a military base in this world, sneak in and steal 5 vehicles and helicopters that he likes. Although it is a bit unkind to do so, who can tell him that he can't stay in this world for long? According to the satellite data stolen by Red Queen, Yejuju quickly found his target. After several hours, Yejuju finally found this not very large military base in the mountains under the guidance of Red Queen. Although there are only a few hundred troops stationed here, it is small but complete. Whether it is the tanks and combat vehicles that Yejuju needs, or military Hummers, pickup trucks, armored vehicles, and armed helicopters, they are all available. It just meets Yejuju's needs without attracting too much attention afterwards. After finally getting through the long hours, after 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, Yejuju put on his armor and sneaked into the military base. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuanqi. Chapter 299. Of course, in order not to cause trouble, Yejuju asked the Red Queen to invade the base computer and control all the base's monitoring before quietly entering the base. Without the garrison at the base noticing, Yejuju took out a military Humvee, an armored fighting vehicle, a light tank fighting vehicle, an armed helicopter, and a military armed helicopter transport aircraft from the base. It wasn't until dozens of kilometers away from the base that Yejuju found a dense forest and got into it. Standing in an open space, Yejuju released the vehicle stolen from the military base into the space. Then he took out the transformation element and fire of Hunshin Leopard from the space, and said to the system, "System, I want to give these vehicles transformation elements and fire." System. Okay, host. Begin giving. As soon as the sound fell, the deformation elements in Yejuju's hands were divided into 5 groups, each covering the vehicle. As always, after a flash of brilliance on the 5 vehicles, the deformation elements were completely integrated into the 5 vehicles. Then 5 clusters of fire flew out of Yejuju's hands and merged into the 5 vehicles. After the fire disappeared, the 5 vehicles rang out, and each of the 5 vehicles turned into 5 tall transformers about 5 meters tall. The 5 transformers stood up, bowed to Yejuju and said, "Owner." Yejuju looked at the 5 transformers with joy on his face and said without hesitation, "Come together and show me." Yes. The 5 transformers agreed in unison, and then using the tank as the main body, the remaining 4 transformers transformed into various body parts, jumped on his body and merged into one. The process of merging was very fast, just in the blink of an eye, a tall fused transformer almost 30 meters tall appeared in front of Yejuju. But the amazing thing is that the appearance of this transformer is completely different from other transformers. It does not look like a vehicle at all, but more like a mecha warrior in this world. Looking at the appearance of this mecha warrior, it looks like a neatly dressed general from ancient China. Two 5-meter-long giant knives hung on the left and right sides of his waist. From the cold light flashing from time to time on the giant sword, you can tell that these two swords are very sharp without even holding them in your hands. There are two energy cannons on the shoulders, with the muzzles standing straight towards the sky. Yejuju had no doubt that the power of these two giant cannons, not only could easily penetrate the flesh of monsters, but at least could leave quite a few wounds on them. At the same time, the data of the Mecha Warrior also appeared in front of Yejuju. Mecha Warrior, to be named, synthesized by deforming 5 vehicles. Height, 8 meters. Weight, 15 tons. Weapons, energy cannon on the shoulder, double plasma swords on the waist, good at melee combat. These data look like the Mecha Warriors of this world. Perform. Yejuju, who was confused, couldn't help but ask the system. System, why does this combined King Kong look so unlike a transformer? System. The rules of the world where the host lives have changed, and the newly synthesized combined King Kong will transform according to the rules of this world. After listening to the system's explanation, Yejuju suddenly came to his senses and stopped worrying about the shape of the combined King Kong after its transformation. What we have to consider now is how to attract the attention of the Hunter School without being caught by the authorities and sent to jail. After thinking for a long time, Yejuju gritted his teeth and decided to go to the base of the Hunter School in China, near the Magnolia base. In this way, he can be discovered by the nearby Hunter School and be admitted into the school without exception. As for waiting until the protagonist enters the Hunter School together, Yejuju has no intention of doing so. After all, in Yejuju's opinion, the black protagonist is not that great, and he is really not as good as his father Pentecost. Besides, Yejuju had no intention of driving the Revenge Wanderer with him. Thinking of this, Yejuju thought about what name to give the combined King Kong. After thinking for a long time, Yejuju couldn't think of a good name, so he simply named it General based on the appearance of the combined King Kong. After taking the name, Yejuju put the General into the pet space. This is also a bug that Yejuju discovered only recently, that is, whether it is a mechanical 2-headed dragon, Tiamat, or a mechanical 3-headed dog, Cerberus. As long as it is in the combined state, it can be completely retracted into the pet space, and there is no need for insufficient mental power to drive it. Obviously, the system treats the combined King Kong as a pet. With this advantage, Yejuju naturally took the combined General into the pet space and stored it. After doing all this, Yejuju opened the panel again and checked. Name, Yejuju. Age, 16 years old. Occupation, mechanical hunter. Level, level 28, 23800/28000. Property. Strength, 16. Stamina, 16. Intelligence, 30. Spirit, 30. Agility, 30. Speed, 38 meters/second. Energy, 6000, 30 points/minute recovery speed. Professional talents and skills. 1 intermediate combat master. 2 intermediate mechanical master. Pets, mechanical 2-headed dragon, Tiamat, mechanical 3-headed dog, Cerberus, Mecha Warrior, General. Mount, Chasing Wind, Transformer. Special space, mechanical manufacturing space 1000 square meters, traps *100, spider silk jets, mechanical flies *100, wolf packs *23, mechanical drones *10, liquid metal robots *6, deformation elements, 6 fire clusters. Drawings, 0. Special permissions, 0. Looking at his current data and mechanical pets that are much different from before, Yejuju smiled with satisfaction. At the same time, he also looked forward to what kind of surprises this world can bring him. Since he decided to go to China, Yejuju no longer said anything, activated the armor and put it on, let the Red Queen solve all the troubles and guide the way, and flew from high altitude to the Magnolia base in China. It has to be said that Yejuju with the armor can really do whatever he wants. It only took 3 hours to fly from the United States to the vicinity of the Magnolia base in China. When Yejuju came to the outside of the Magnolia base in China, he could see the Magnolia base located near the sea from a distance standing on the coast. Yejuju also saw from this base that China attaches great importance to this base. Not only because the base occupies an entire island, but also because the buildings in the base are huge and solid, and the resources consumed must not be too few. It was almost dusk at this time, and helicopters flew in and out from time to time outside the base, which seemed extremely busy. Look, Yejuju saw from afar that the mecha warrior Brave Omega walked with heavy steps from the bridge outside the base to the depths of the base. Without asking, Yejuju guessed that this unlucky guy who appeared in only a few shots in the play and was destroyed by the unmanned mecha had just returned from a patrol mission to repair. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuan-Chi. Chapter 300. After silently observing the base for a while, Yejuju decided to have a good rest tonight and find a way to enter the base tomorrow. There was no need to find a hotel to stay in. Yejuju found a place nearby that was sheltered from the wind and took out a tent from the space to rest for a night. The next day, after Yejuju got up early, he took out the general from the space and climbed into the general's cab along the general's body. After entering the cab, Yejuju really knew what the system meant by the King Kong synthesized according to the rules of this world. This cab is very spacious and very similar to the cabs of those mechas in the movie, with the same configuration. This made Yejuju sigh at the thoughtfulness of the system, which was so thoughtful for him. This is not that Yejuju thought too much. After all, the setting of this world is mecha warriors and alien monsters. If Yejuju took out other transformers and his own armor in the early stage, it would be fine if he could attract others' covetousness, so if he could not enter the hunter school, it would be a loss. And with the general, and Yejuju driving alone, I believe that if General Quan and Ma Zi, the two people in charge of the base, knew about it, they would consider directly accepting him into the hunter school. Thinking of this, Yejuju took off the helmet from the cab and put it on his head, and controlled the general to walk from the coast to the bridge leading to the base. The sudden appearance of the general was naturally discovered by the detection device of the base, which immediately alarmed General Quan and Ma Zi in the base. Through remote monitoring, a mecha with a height of almost 30 meters was seen walking towards the base step by step. After the two looked at each other, they saw the excitement in each other's eyes. Yes. Excitement. Although it has been 10 years since the last alien monster invaded the Earth. The space crack was also blown up by Pentecost at the cost of his own sacrifice. But neither of them was as optimistic as those politicians who thought the disaster was over and even planned to cancel the hunter school. They all believed that one day, the monsters would come back, and they had been working hard to keep the hunter school open. But after so many years, the number of qualified hunter students was getting smaller and smaller, and even to the point of a lack of successors. What they were most worried about was that when the monsters came back one day, there would be no suitable mecha pilots to fight, and the Earth would be destroyed. Now, the two saw a mecha they had never seen before coming to the base. And this mecha was obviously smaller, which made it easy for them to believe that it should be driven by one person. Oh my god. The only person who could drive a mecha was Luo Lai, except for Pan Scott who had died. Even among these two people, except for Pan Scott who had driven a mecha alone to fight, even Luo Lai only drove a mecha back to the shore alone. The sequelae brought about by this was that Pan Scott's brain was severely damaged, and he bid farewell to the position of mecha driving from then on. Now, Seeing a man driving a mecha and walking towards the base, they couldn't help but think of a mecha that had been kept in the warehouse in the base. However, neither of them said anything tacitly, and kept silent, allowing the defense forces in the base to go out and intercept the mecha. Obviously, both of them wanted to see how powerful the mecha driven by Yejuju was, and at the same time, they also wanted to find out what Yejuju's purpose was. So, would Yejuju be afraid of the defense force of the base? Obviously. When Yejuju planned to drive the mecha to the base, he was ready to fight with the base. This is easy to understand. I believe that any commander will not easily believe a person who privately made a mecha before seeing the real strength, right? The fact was indeed not beyond Yejuju's expectations. Not long after, a light blue mecha walked out of the base. Yejuju saw the mecha from a distance, and recognized it at a glance as the Winter Ajax that was destroyed by Shaw's unmanned mecha in a short time in the play. When he saw it, Yejuju had the basic information of the mecha in his mind. Mecha name, Winter Ajax, November. Ajax. Mecha model, 6th generation mecha hunter. Construction site, Los Angeles base in the United States. Construction country, PPDC headquarters. Cost, unknown. Factory date, unknown. Height, 80 meters. Weight, unknown. Permitted passengers, 2 people. Energy supply, lithium-ion LIM accelerator. Fighting form, Sentinel. Firepower configuration, knuckle taser. To be honest, a lot of unknown information also gave Yejuju a headache. However, let alone this mecha, even if facing the strongest Obsidian or Revenge Wanderer, Yejuju has the ability to fight. He also believes that with his own control ability and fighting skills, he can easily defeat this mecha that requires 2 people to drive. Arriving at the bridgehead leading to the base, Yejuju did not go any deeper and waited at the bridgehead. This was also something Yejuju had considered long ago. Since he was not here to cause trouble for the base, it would be better not to go too deep, lest he be mistaken as an invading enemy by the base. After waiting for a few minutes, he saw Winter Ajax bending over and speeding towards him more than 50 meters away. Looking at the angle of its charge, Yejuju guessed that the purpose of the 2 people driving him was to knock him to the ground and rub him on the ground. After seeing his purpose, Yejuju immediately prepared for hand-to-hand combat and prepared to teach the 2 people driving Winter Ajax a lesson. Winter Ajax was extremely fast, showing the advantages of lithium-ion LIM acceleration. Unfortunately, it was too big and there were 2 people driving it, so it was not as flexible as Yejuju alone. Not to mention that Yejuju was good at fighting, so Winter Ajax could not hit him. Just when Winter Ajax was about to hit Yejuju, Yejuju's body moved suddenly. With a reaction speed that ordinary mechas could not achieve, he easily avoided the collision of Winter Ajax and kicked him heavily in the back. Unfortunately, the general was too small and lacked strength after all, so this kick only kicked Winter Ajax more than 10 meters away. Looking at Winter Ajax, who was kicked out only 10 meters away, Yejuju smacked his lips bitterly. He cursed the perverts of this world in his heart. It was fine if the smallest monsters that invaded the Earth were 50 meters or more. Are these mechas made by humans also in this state? They weigh thousands of tons at any time, and it is really not something that a small body like him can easily shake. Just as Yejuju was sighing, Winter Ajax, who was kicked to the ground, rolled on the ground and knelt on one knee to stabilize his body. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 301. The next moment, Winter Ajax raised his left hand and pointed at Yejuju with a fist, and 5 taser bullets were fired from his knuckles. Seeing this, Yejuju didn't dare to be hit by this damn thing. He knew the power of this humble bullet. Although it may look inconspicuous, if it hits your body, it will instantly knock you to the ground. Yejuju did a sideways somersault without hesitation, and did 3 consecutive somersaults to avoid the bullet attack. Before Yejuju could stand firm, Winter Ajax rushed towards Yejuju again. Seeing Yejuju continuously turning sideways to avoid bullet attacks, both Maisie and General Quan had expressions of surprise on their faces. Both of them could see from this action how amazing Yejuju's driving skills were. Although this action is inconspicuous, anyone who has learned fighting can do it, but you must know that this is a mecha. If the mecha can make such dexterous movements, it can be seen how high the mental power of the person driving the mecha is. This also made it more certain that this mecha was operated by one person, otherwise how could it have made such an action? The battle continues. As soon as Yejuju stood firm, Dongri Ajax rushed forward and punched Yejuju's head without mercy. Just like in reality, the mecha's head is also a dangerous part. Once hit by gravity, the pilot inside will be injured or even comatose, or the nerves will be immediately damaged. Never think about driving a mecha again in the future. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Yejuju naturally wouldn't be hit in the head by him. Just a simple sideways shaking of his head caused the punch to miss his face. Although the size difference is too big, Yejuju can use his strength to fight. The body squatted slightly, and the Winter Ajax, which had moved its center of gravity forward, resisted. Using the force of the force, he threw the Winter Ajax, which weighed more than 1,800 tons, and knocked it over heavily on the ground. Amidst the loud clang, bang sound, the two pilots in the cab were hit hard by this heavy fall, causing their whole heads to buzz. Before they could wake up from their daze, Yejuju had already grabbed his right hand, crossed his legs around his arm, pressed him tightly on his chest, and used Jin Dion's strength in the fight. The cross-solid action comes. This move is truly a locking technique that even a weak woman can use to lock up a strong man. Even though the general is only 30 meters tall and weighs only 15 tons. Winter Ajax, who was more than 80 meters taller and weighed 100 times more than the general, was also locked to the ground by this move. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free. In fact, even Yejuju was shocked and confused after subconsciously using this move. If this is okay for humans, why does it work if it is switched to a mecha? This is actually easy to understand. Even though the mecha is made of steel, the people driving and controlling it are humans. And all actions of the mecha are closely linked to the person driving it, that is to say, the weaknesses that humans have are also possessed by mechas. Therefore, the mecha locked to the ground by Yejuju's cross seemed to have no problem. But the two people in the cab were lying on their backs in the cab, with their right hands stretched straight. As if imprisoned by an invisible force, only his right hand was left to wave in vain in the air, but he could not break free of Yejuju's cross. Seeing this scene, General Quan and Mesa looked at each other blankly, and subconsciously blurted out, "Is this a cross? How is it possible?" After saying that, passionate sparks burst out in their eyes. If Yejuju saw it at this time, he would see it in their eyes. You must accept this person. Yejuju's series of actions were so amazing that the two top commanders of the base recognized Yejuju at this moment. No, first of all, General Quan stepped out of the command room, followed closely by Mesa. At the end of the bridge, the locked-in Winter Ajax finally couldn't bear the humiliation and shouted through the mecha's loudspeaker. "If you have the ability, let us go, you despicable person, using such despicable methods." Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Yejuju. "Despicable? You don't even think about it. Why am I so despicable? Your height and weight are not greater than mine, so what are the despicable methods I used? You are hunters. Didn't I teach you the crossbar in the fighting class? You." The voices of the two people were heard speaking neatly from the mecha, but they could not continue after they only said the word "you." Of course they knew that the techniques used by Yejuju had been practiced by them in fighting training in the past. But I can't figure out why this technique is useful in mecha battles. Not only were they unable to figure this out, but the hunters, students, and base staff who gathered around the base and watched the live broadcast were also unable to figure it out. Especially the younger students were astonished by this scene. It was as if a door opened in front of them, making their eyes light up. Several other mecha pilots saw that their companions were easily subdued by Yejuju, and they immediately became unconvinced, and they all clamored to get on the mecha and go out to fight Yejuju. However, he was severely stopped by General Quan and Maisie, who just came out. Then, the two hurriedly got on a Hummer, and General Quan drove out of the base himself. When the Hummer stopped at the bridgehead, Yejuju heard the brake sound and saw the two people getting off, and knew that his plan was successful. Sure enough, the two people who got off the car walked to 5 meters away from the mecha and stood still, shouting to Yejuju. "I am the Supreme Commander of the base, General Quan. Can you let go of Winter Ajax?" Hearing this, Yejuju let go of his hand and stood up from the ground. Such a flexible movement naturally made General Quan and Mazi's eyes light up again. When Winter Ajax stood up and wanted to rush to Yejuju for revenge, he was stopped by General Quan. "Okay, aren't you ashamed? Go back to the base, summarize today's lessons, and double the training time." Hearing General Quan's words, Winter Ajax stopped moving, hesitated for a while, and reluctantly agreed to a yes, and turned to walk towards the base. After Winter Ajax left, General Quan looked at Yejuju with shining eyes and said, "I think you must have a purpose for coming to the base in a mecha? Can you get off the mecha and talk to me?" Hearing this, Yejuju replied without hesitation, "Okay, I'll get off right away." After saying that, Yejuju took off the helmet on his head, opened the cockpit of the mecha, and slid down from the mecha along the body of the mecha. Seeing that only Yejuju came out of the mecha, General Quan and Ming Ming were both surprised.